The Shedim is described in lore as cunning and mischievous. A little bit of a trickster ghost. I call him personally the Loki ghost because he does like to play tricks. So, before we actually watch the Shedim at work with some gameplay, let us look into a little bit of his background and how that relates to the contracts that you experience in the game. Class is in session, and we'll start with a little history first. The Shedim is hell's most savage. So dark that even God himself wouldn't allow them into the light, and Lucifer feared them so much so that he confined them to the pits of hell. Nusi Games, however, unlocked that cage, and he brought this entity to this as a ghost. Now, in the pinned comments you will see the references that I've used for this entity and this guide. I've been researching this ghost just a little bit too much, but I did it for you guys, okay? So I bring you a little bit of lore and information on the entity because it does fit the pattern of how it is in the game. I hope you like my bullet pointed list, guys. I've really went up a level in terms of video production, but my camera still seems to jutter in and out, and for that I apologise. I have tried to fix it, but background removal is not my friend today. Now, the Shedim is very cunning and sly. Like I said before, he's like Loki as a ghost. He's what I expect Loki would be. He's a type of demon, and he's involved the same family as the Echo of Death and the Rakshasa. I don't know why I can't pronounce the names of these new entities. If you'd like to let me know, you can let me know in the comments. I'll try my best. I'm Scottish. I'm immediately at a disadvantage. Okay. Now, the Shedim is very good at hiding things. Okay. Lore has stated if you lose your keys, a Shedim may be at work. How does that translate into the game? Well, it does in terms of the evidence that he leaves behind, or doesn't. From all of the games that I've reviewed, and trust me, I've reviewed a lot, I usually spend 2 to 3 days just watching footage alone of whatever entity that I'm doing a guide for. And doing so, in these games, what I find is the Shedim leaves 2 evidence, 1 evidence, he'll just miss it out. Doesn't matter what mode you're on, easy, medium or hard. And that actually falls into line and pattern with how he's described. Okay, so he's mischievous, he's a trickster, he likes to hide things. Evidence may be there for a shorter period of time. Please read into that as you will. Okay, you struggle to find the last 1 or 2 pieces of evidence. There'll be low writing in the book compared to other entities. The Shedim will still write in the book, but maybe not as much. Okay. What I do find in the games that I've viewed, anytime I choose an entity, whether it's the Shedim or the Yuri or the Revenant that I think it may be, when I choose that or when I craft bullets, that's when the last piece of evidence or 2 will show. So that's really interesting. I found that pattern a little bit. So for these types of contracts, you can't exactly say anymore, well, I should have had fingerprints by now. And you'll see that in the gameplay that I'm about to show you. I should have had fingerprints, he's touched a door a lot, or he's touched the book, or he's touched a switch, and I've not had any. With a Shedim, that's his thing. He will purposely not show you that piece of evidence. This, I think, is actually balanced by how late it is to hunt. Okay, so he doesn't actually hunt, and as you can see on the journal, he doesn't hunt to 90 to 100. And it's probably because it takes so long, and the games can be kind of slow. It takes so long to give that evidence. Now, he may touch lights, he may give over voltage, or ring the phone, or play the piano, but he won't leave evidence. That's the point. So in terms of evidence behind and waiting to make sure you've got the right entity, not just guessing. From my experience, the Shedim is fast, and he sends out soldiers when he hunts you. That is similar to the Echo of Death ability, but it's a little bit different. What the lore states is a Shedim carries with it all the spirits of past children. But these spirits are so powerful they cannot possess a human body. So Nusi Games has very cleverly designed these soldiers as skulls. Plenty of skulls coming at you at a 360 degree angle. It will come from behind you if you don't choose your battleground right. Now, I will get into that in a little bit of detail, but as lore states, doesn't have a body. You've got skulls, they're much smaller to aim at, they're very fast at coming at you. You can use a mixture of your shield and your pistol, but these skulls are so abrasive, and there's so many of them, that you may use all your pistol bullets quickly. I really feel that the Shedim is more difficult to face as opposed to the Echo of Death, and that's because his soldiers are so small. They're tiny, you don't see them at the last second, you don't know from which direction they're coming at, and they're a little bit faster than the Echo of Death soldiers. So, it's great, right? Don't worry though, to balance it out, Nusi Games has made this entity particularly weak to holy water. So when you craft up quartz and holy water, you may find that in 1 or 2 shots you have banished him, and when you do banish him, his soldiers stop. So even the ones that have spawned out, they will disappear. The soldiers don't hit hard either, so it does balance itself out. As lore shows, in dealing with a Shedim in real life, it's best to do so with windows open, and that's to let the spirit and his soldiers out. Difficulty is, in this game, there's not a lot of windows you can open, okay? How does this translate? When the Shedim soldiers spawn, they will actually spawn through a window. So choosing your hunting ground or your battleground is really important. You'll see in the game that I'm about to show you, in Little House for instance, in Teen Boy Bedroom, the room beside has a window in the kitchen. There's also a window straight in front in the dining room, and a window itself in the Little Boy Bedroom. Now it took me a while to figure this out, but when you're fighting a Shedim, if you're near windows, even if it's the room beside you, because the skulls will travel through the wall, if it's even in the room beside you, you're in for a more difficult fight. The Shedim takes off 30 health from your shield, so 3 hits from a skull, your shield is gone. Trust. And pretty much all your pistol bullets. You got to have a quick shot. But again, it's balanced out with that holy water and quartz. With 1 or 2 hits, the Shedim's banished. So that's a really cool factor. If you are fighting a Shedim and you do find these spawning soldiers behind you, it may be because you're near that window. Shield up, try your best to use your pistol and banish them as quickly as possible, just like the journal says. One thing you can use against the soldiers is incense. Incense placed correctly during the hunt will actually stop the soldiers from spawning. Just figure out yourself how to do that. Sorry, not sorry. It can be a difficult entity to go up against, and you'll see in this gameplay and a little montage at the end what is possible of happening. I really hope that this helps you guys, and if it does, and if you like this content, make sure to subscribe. Shameless plug aside, but enough about the Shedim, let's go and watch him. This is some of my gameplay with a little commentary from myself, just to point out some key factors. Alright guys, let's go. This is some previous footage against a Shedim at Little House on hard difficulty. And what I want to say about this game is I spent a couple of months actually recording footage of every entity, categorising that into their own little folders, and I do spend 2 to 3 days watching these videos one after the other to try and get a little pattern about the entity itself. So as I look for this cursed object, whatever I do say on this guide, it's based on the torturous method of having to make this guide itself. So I did learn a little bit on the way. So we have a cursed camera. A cursed object is always going to be the first thing you see with a Shedim. It's because it's always there. It's the rest of the evidence that seems to be a bit of an issue. As I explained before, the Shedim is mischievous, he's cunning, and he's sly. And he really acts like that in this game, so you might find it difficult to see the distortion and to get the last couple of pieces of evidence. You might find that the games are a little bit slower in terms of you don't get evidence, but you might get light switching and objects moving. And again, it plays into his mischievous nature. I really did struggle in this particular contract to find the favourite room, so I used incense. It wasn't a quest not to. But as soon as I put that incense down, the Shedim actually moved a packet of crisps or chips outside, and we found out he was residual. It's really good to see the difference in residual on the night vision. If it's LSS, it would have a square sort of outline. That was smooth, so it's residual. Now, pull my EMF reader out, I'm getting low readings throughout the contract. And sometimes I find that the EMF meter might go off when nothing has been moved. And also, similarly, if something's been moved, it doesn't give a reading. So a little bit of cunning there. We do eventually find the distortion though, it took us a little while. And something about orb checking outside I really don't like. I do use the paranormal filter 507 just to make sure there's not a sneaky tiny orb in the sky. So we put all the information we've got out of the book, and pretty soon you're going to hear the residual noise. There we go. And also the footstep audio that I was talking about. That's just a quick recap that in Shedim games there is a lot of those footstep noises, almost like he's chasing you or stalking you, which again plays into his mischievous nature. And I do take the book into the entity's favourite room to increase the chances of identification factors and fingerprints. But like I said before guys, the Shedim does not give evidence lightly. He's very frugal with it, and sometimes you don't get fingerprints, footprints at all. Once you start getting a couple of pieces of evidence, you'll find things occurring like, is it a revenant or a Shedim? Is it a Yuri or a Shedim? And remember, it can always be a tulpa, okay? But this plays into his mischievous nature as well. And there goes the footsteps again. But from all the games that I have played, and this one is no different, the games can be kind of slow, find it difficult to get evidence. You'll find yourself switching on switches, closing doors in the hopes that he reacts back to it. Obviously at this case he does give us drawing, which leaves us between a Yuri and a Shedim. But you'll be able to hear an example here. Now these lights all burst out here, and there is no EMF reading. There is an EMF reading inside, but you would expect one to be out here too. And I do see this a lot in all the cases that I do. When I switched that switch on there, he switched it immediately back off, and he does this a lot with doors. You'll see in a second as well. And this is why I call him the Loki ghost, because he's just mischievous and cunning and sly, exactly what the lore had said. So I do believe Nusi has modelled this on an actual Shedim. So in terms of the book, you're really not getting a lot of writing at all, and that's across all difficulties on most of the contracts that I've actually viewed over the last few days. I think that's because he doesn't want to give you fingerprints, he doesn't want to give you that last piece of evidence. And that is because he's an asshole. I mean, he's cunning. Alright, I'll try a more positive word, whatever. Now, I fill my game up mostly by trying to get quests and teasing out evidence. There's a couple of things you can do. Between a Yuri and a Shedim, you're looking at voices and fingerprints. Now, don't make the mistake I did here. This is why I say you can't say in a contract where you think it might be a Shedim, oh, I've not had fingerprints yet, it must be the other one, because he's touched the door a lot. It doesn't work that way with a Shedim. He's a trickster. He will not give you that last piece of evidence on purpose, alright? In terms of trying to get the last piece of evidence, there's a couple of ways that you can manipulate that. There you go again with the footsteps. Now you can physically ask it to make a noise if you're looking for voices. And you can ask it to open a door for fingerprints, etc. At this point in the game, I'm swaying towards Yuri because, again, I made the mistake of just assuming that fingerprints should have showed by now. Now what plays into his nature is the fact that as soon as I select Yuri, not near a minute or two later, we get fingerprints. Can you make a noise? Okay. So you can see me here just trying to get voices. It kind of sings to me, but that's not the voices I'm looking for. Now here you can see the trickster nature of the Shedim. I try and get in the door and he closes it immediately in front of my face, over and over. But we get our fingerprints here, which confirms to me it is a Shedim. Which is lucky for me, because if the Yuri had run out of the damn ruin, on hard mode you've got 2 hits and you're gone. Alright, so really glad that we figured that out before we started the hunt. But we go on in the next part of the video, and this is important. How to hunt a Shedim. How do you banish him to the other side? The ability is that you can send out lots of soldiers during the hunt, and those can be really tricky to deal with. He can randomly appear in the ruin prior to the hunt beginning, but he will send out soldiers and you can hear them. It sounds exactly like the Echo Death soldiers, but there's a big difference. They don't have bodies, making their hitbox much smaller. They take about 30 off your shield. So 3 hits of that and you're gone, your shield is done. And they can quite easily eat all your pistol bullets, even with the 2 extra. As soon as you hear that noise, get your shield up right away. So the reason why there are 360 degrees here is because there's a window in the kitchen. Like I explained at the start of the video. There's a window in front of me and a window in the kitchen at the side, which these skulls will actually spawn from and even come through the wall. So when you're fighting the Shedim, don't fight him in this room, fight him outside if you can. And as you can see, the skulls don't take too much damage off you, and the Shedim himself is particularly weak. So this balances out the sheer number of skulls that can actually attack you. So we'll be careful guys, fight this guy away from windows. Make sure you've got a nice long runway, and remember, your safety is paramount. Don't be scared to leave that contract. If you liked this guide and found it helpful, please make sure to subscribe. We have more guides on the way. Bye guys!
Attack me.
Some footprints, yep. Okay, the Shedim is particularly sensitive to incense, however we are not allowed to use that. No incense allowed for this part. Oh god. Okay. It's putting up quite a few cursed walls. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, I did it! Are you freaking kidding me? I freaking did it! No, Jesus Christ. Ah! What the freaking... What is that? What is going on? What is going on? Shut up. This is very similar to an Echo of Death in the sense it has soldiers. Ah! Get fucked. Suck my dick. Suck my dick. What the fucking, where are you coming from? Ah! Oh my god.
Holy I'm so dead. I'm so dead. I'm so dead. The Shedim.